Newsmakers. My name's Catherine Warren, and I'm here with Town of Telluride Mayor Delanie Young, and we're here for Telluride TV's Mayoral Update. Hello, Delanie.
Hi, Catherine.
It's so nice to see a friendly face, even with the mask on.
I agree. It's nice to see people outside my family pod.
Yes. So due to the fact that we are a certain distance away, I think we can take our masks off.
And I brought a visual for that for everyone. You may have seen me walking around Main Street. If I hold it out with my arms straight, it is 3 inches shy of 6 feet. So we are plenty away from each other. Wow, it's so nice to
Sweet relief.
not have my glasses fog up.
So, you know, in early March, we thought we were looking at a pretty easy off-season, and things became drastically different in mid-March. In case you missed it, there was a whole public health order, global pandemic, total eruption to our local economy and daily lives. So we thought we'd get together to have Delanie give an update on the town of Telluride and what we've been doing here locally and how that trickles, how the federal work and county work all trickles down and back and forth.
That's a very good way to say it.
So, of course, it's county public health orders. That was issued in mid-March and lasted through April, and now we're in the safer at home. And, you know, you and I know from our work and, you know, paying attention to local politics how the government structure works. But for viewers at home who might not understand the difference between town of Telluride and county, can you explain to them why this is a county order and how town of Telluride plays into that?
Absolutely. It can get very confusing, and for anyone who does know how this works, this is not meant to sound condescending or anything. It's just a way to explain something that, unless you pay attention to it all the time, it gets pretty confusing. In the state of Colorado, counties are vested with the authority to deal with public health by the state. The state is sort of the top of the pyramid, if you will, and they are in charge of the public health orders on a state level. It then filters down to counties and in some cases cities, if the cities actually have their own public health department. And then below that is all of the other towns and municipalities that exist in the state. Because Telluride doesn't have a public health department, we are under the county's public health department, and therefore the county health director, Grace Franklin, had to work with her staff to come up with this public health order. If the county didn't have a public health order in place, we would still be under the state public health order.
Okay. And our public health order was issued before the state's back in March, so it was a little bit of a tricky time before the state health order was issued.
Yeah, and that's the other piece is even if the state didn't have one, counties were authorized to come up with their own if they saw a need arise. And we saw one arise, and I say we as a county, not the town. Mm-hmm. We saw that need arise because we saw neighboring communities, similar communities, ski resort communities, get hit hard and fast. And
Pitkin County, Aspen, Vale, basically our sister ski towns.
Absolutely. Eagle County was another one. Gunnison County. This all started to hit fast and hard, and these aren't easy decisions.
Yeah.
Because it does affect people's lives in every single way. And I, for one, am very grateful that the county took a fast approach, because without doing so, we'll never know what could have happened.
Yeah.
But knowing that we are where we are, and we have no deaths and very few hospitalizations and not very many cases in the grand scheme of things, I think it's because we did something right.
Right. So, Delanie, normally, in normal times, Telluride Town Council meets every 2 to 3 weeks, roughly?
Roughly.
3 weeks?
Every 3 weeks generally, but depending on school breaks and things, sometimes it's 2 or 4 weeks.
Okay, and so quickly after public health orders were issued and people were starting to adapt to or figure out what situation we were facing and adapt to it, Telluride Town Council started meeting on a weekly basis. Is that correct?
We did. It just seemed more appropriate and more prudent to meet weekly because things are changing weekly or even more frequently. And it was really hard to share pertinent information in a timely fashion, I felt, without meeting weekly. And since we were all under stay-at-home orders, everyone was here, and being under safer-at-home orders, we still are encouraged to stay in place. That is still part of the safer-at-home order. And everyone on council was agreeable to that idea. It's hard for staff, and they are making it work. And a huge shout out to the town of Telluride staff. Thank you, all of you. We have been asking a lot of them, and they have been coming through like gangbusters.
And many of them working from home, correct?
Yes.
Because town of Telluride offices are closed to the public still, correct?
Yes.
And you guys are meeting on Zoom, which thank goodness for Zoom. If this had happened how many years ago, I don't know what we would have done, but it's really, we joke that there's too many Zoom calls every day, but it really has allowed governments, businesses, and people to adapt. So the the Telluride Town Council meetings are held each Tuesday on Zoom, but then recorded or broadcast live on Kodo.
Yes, thank you, Kodo. I thank you every week, and I can't thank you enough. Kodo has always aired the regular and special town council meetings, and this was a big ask, I thought. And they have been very generous. Every Tuesday that it's a special meeting, it starts at 9:15 a.m. and goes until noon. And we do our best to make that a hard stop so that Kodo can then air daily updates from either county government or the medical center or Telluride Foundation, various organizations who are integral in everything that's happening.
So even though the meetings are held virtually and broadcast on Kodo, there's still the opportunity for the public to participate or provide public comment if they perhaps don't have internet?
Absolutely. It has been an interesting change for all of us, and our clerk is, we call her our Zoom expert now. Tiffany, she's awesome.
She became an expert in
She could probably teach courses in it. One of the things we wanted to make sure was that we used a platform that had space to allow people to join in. We have the 7 council members, many staff who either are presenting to us or want to be involved because they need to know what's going on, obviously, in town government. But we average, I think, 65 to 70 people at each of our meetings. We had a meeting the other day. At one point, I think we were pushing 100 people. And I thank everyone who is logging in to our meetings. They take a long time because you have to be methodical. We're doing our best to continue to uphold what is known as the Sunshine Law and give proper noticing for meetings, provide the crucial information to the public for the meetings, and allow the public a chance to speak. And you can come in on your computer or on your phone, you raise your hand, you get called upon, and you have your 2 to 3 minutes to talk. And for people who don't have internet, it's one of the reasons it's been so important for us to have it aired on Kodo so that people, even in the West End, who very well may work in Telluride, know what's going on, and if they don't have internet, they can hear it on Kodo, hopefully. I think most of the West End has access to Kodo.
So in those council meetings, town council has really discussed some emergency ordinances and other tactics to try to help their residents and constituents in town and Telluride district. Would you like to touch on some of those, Delanie?
COVID-related.
COVID-related
Yes.
emergency ordinances.
We have passed 2 emergency ordinances. The first one that we passed was for sales tax deferral for
Okay.
business license holders. We were hearing a lot of messaging from the business community that they were concerned, and justifiably so, with how their finances were going to be over the next month or 2 or 3. And while we can't forgive sales tax, we can't. It's a tax. It doesn't belong to the business. It's collected from a customer and held by the business to then forward to the various entities, be it town or state or county. But we knew that coming up with a method for deferral could at least give them a little window of opportunity to wait for potential federal assistance that was coming through, or more regional grants or loans. And we offered up to 2 months of deferral. Businesses still had to file their taxes online. It's all online anyway, even before all of this happened. They have to file online so that there's at least knowledge of what is owed, but they could then ask for a deferral, and they also were not going to be charged any penalties or fines or interest for waiting to pay. And those would ultimately need to be paid by, I believe, the end of the 3rd quarter of 2020. And to be honest, we didn't have as many people apply for it as we expected, which I think speaks to what a good winter we actually had.
We had a great winter.
Up until we closed down.
Until May 14th.
March 14th.
March 14th. May 14th was this week.
That's right.
There's no sense of time or
I know, it's all very
dates. It's all a blur right now.
Just very fluid, as you said.
So before you get to the other ordinances, that just made me think of something. Town of Mountain Village has done a similar thing, and I've been really impressed lately with the cooperation between the 2 towns in communication, and then how you guys are talking and working with the county. And would you like to speak to that, or how important that is in this unprecedented time?
Absolutely. I'm very grateful for how all 3 immediate local governments have been working together. And yes, I think that having some continuity with programs, with assistance, with ideas between Town of Mountain Village, Town of Telluride, and San Miguel County specifically, because we're all right here, is crucial. Otherwise, people just get confused and they don't understand why it's happening this way here and not happening down here. And so it has been very helpful. Knowing that each section of government, it's apples and oranges. There's differences between us. So not everything can be done the same way, but if we can keep consistent messaging, and if we can do our best to work on similar assistance for our community, it definitely helps. And thank you to Layla, because she and I have conversations once in a while and throw ideas back and forth. And she actually brought me a puzzle.
Oh, Layla.
And so it was very, very sweet. It was left on my front porch, and I've been working on it. It's very hard, but it's good.
For those not familiar, Layla is Town of Mountain Village's mayor, and I just have to put a little plug as the feminist that I am, that I think it's great that we have 2 female mayors and a female chair of the Board of County Commissioners. So, girl power.
It's pretty cool.
It is great. So going back to the emergency ordinances, I'm so sorry, viewers, this is how my brain works. I think of something, I just have to ask it before it goes out the other side of my brain.
And please don't apologize. I think we're kind of relishing having this interaction. And just for the listening audience, there's only 3 of us in here, and you saw that Catherine and I are adequately distanced.
Yes.
And Tim, who is helping us from Telluride TV, is way over there with his cameras and still wearing a mask.
Yes.
Good on you. As far as the emergency ordinances, to get back to that, the same ordinance that had the sales tax deferral, we also addressed short-term rentals, which have been restricted by the county health order and by the state health order. We, in the town of Telluride, having a very large concentration of short-term rentals, decided as a council through discussion that we thought it would be a good idea to extend or expand the number of days that defined what a short-term rental was.
Okay.
I don't necessarily want to get into the minutia of why we felt that was necessary. I think it was a unanimous, maybe it wasn't unanimous. It may have been a 6-1 vote in the end, but if it was either 6-1 or 7-0 to pass that ordinance as it was written. And we haven't had a ton of backlash. It's completely tied to the county health order. So once the county health order changes, that emergency ordinance for short-term rental may no longer be necessary.
Right.
I would go then on to the next emergency ordinance that we passed, which was just a couple of days ago, I think. Again, days are...
In early May.
It is Saturday right now, I know that.
Yes.
I think it was this past Tuesday, we were asked for weeks about masks. The county determined that it would be in the best interest of the county at large to not require masks. It has been encouraged from the beginning, but it has not been required. In the town of Telluride, we have been getting, and when I say we, I mean not only me as mayor, I think every member of council and many staff members have received dozens and dozens of messages regarding masks, both for and against. And we ultimately decided that in order to take the responsibility off of the business owners to enforce their own rules intermittently, that it made more sense and put less pressure on them, business owners, to pass an ordinance that requires masks for customers in public places or clients or patrons, whatever the case may be, if it's an office or if it's a store. And that was already a requirement for the employees in these establishments. And this sort of tied that all together.
Okay.
And it does have a sunset date of June 2nd, which is...
Just a couple weeks away now.
It's just a couple weeks away. We tried to coincide it with when the next round of county orders would be in play, which is June 1st.
Okay.
Our next regular meeting is on June 2nd. So if things change drastically, that ordinance may go away, or it could get extended, or it could get changed.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that the mask ordinance issue and discussion is a really prime example of local government and local civics in action. I think that it's an example of folks felt very strongly about something, and as an elected board, you guys discussed it and came upon a consensus that seemed to make the most sense for the safety of residents. And I just keep saying it's all about local government right now and local leadership, because that's where it affects our lives the most. And I commend the town of Telluride for facing that discussion that's become a very hot button topic. Is that the right phrase? I can't remember.
A hot button, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
A big issue.
Yeah. And thank you for saying that. And to go back to one of your original questions about how this all works and what is the hierarchy of how these things work, one of the things that local governments do have some latitude in, especially as a home rule charter government, which town of Telluride is, we can decide if something seems emergent that we can pass an ordinance, but it needs to be an ordinance because there has to be some teeth to it. And local government right now is sort of the swan song, I guess. Politics is coming into all of this, which for me is unfortunate, in my opinion,
Yeah.
for me. I thought something like this would really bring populations together and work for a more common goal, more common resolution. And sadly, this pandemic is dividing this country and states and towns tremendously.
Yeah.
And I know it might sound cliche, but that whole message of we are all in this together, a lot of us were saying that a long time ago regularly, but now it has become a global message. And I cannot stress enough that all of us are human, and people are going to make mistakes, whether it's somebody walking into a store because they didn't realize they needed to wear a mask, or an elected official who's been working 16-hour days and says the wrong thing at a meeting. The number one message I'd love people to just take away from any discussions that are had about this is be patient and be kind. Those are the two most important things. When I started my mayoral stint, which was only in November.
But feels so far and long ago.
So long. I was so excited to start going to conferences to meet other elected officials from across the state. And the one that I was able to go to in January before all of this happened was for a group called Club 20. And I spoke about this one before at another mayoral update. The thing I came away with from that conference is that it doesn't matter where you're from, if you're from Telluride or if you're from Nucla, or if you're from San Miguel County or Mesa County or Boulder County or Moffett County. It does not matter where you are from. All of us, every single one of us wants the same things. We want affordable housing. We want good educations for our kids or kids who live in our community. We want jobs with a livable wage. And we want access to affordable and adequate health care, which is huge.
And
I mean,
now
that's
more apparent
everything.
than ever.
That's everything right now.
Yeah.
That message isn't just about Colorado. That's about the entire country, and I'm sure the whole world. And if people can just find that commonality and remember to be patient and kind, we're all going to get through this in a much better way.
My mantra has been, we're just doing the best we can. It's not going to be perfect, but just keep trying to do the best that you can, and we'll get through it somehow.
And just a couple words of kindness go such a long way. So if you have a complaint, try to say it in kind of a nice way.
End it with a, but you're doing great. Speaking of basic needs, I think I commend the town of Telluride for the housing fund and the work that you've done to help people who might not know how they're going to pay next month's rent. And can you speak to those two different programs that were set up recently to help locals afford to stay here?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the first things that we did when this all erupted was figure out a way to help people that we knew we could absolutely help. The town of Telluride owns a lot of rental properties. We have Shandoka, the Virginia Placer, the boarding house, the tiny homes. And we knew that because that's our own entity, our ownership, we could affect something pretty big by offering a month of free rent to anyone who lived in town-owned rental property. The Mountain Village did the same thing at Village Court Apartments.
That is where our working force is. Those few properties is where the majority of our working force lives.
Absolutely, and that was not a small decision.
Yeah.
That carries a price tag of over $200,000 for 1 month for the town. And it was accepted very graciously. I mean, people couldn't believe that we did that. But we knew it wouldn't be enough because as we know, for years, there's been a housing crisis here, and the waiting lists at all of the rental properties here and in the Mountain Village have very long waiting lists. So a lot of people aren't able to rent in town-owned property, and they live and rent out in the general community, free market.
Yeah.
And talking with Tri-County Health over these last couple of months, and they have the Good Neighbor Fund, which if you need help, and I'll get to this later, but
Yes.
the Good Neighbor Fund is out there. They were getting at least 80% of their requests for assistance were for housing.
Wow.
We had a local couple, they live here full time, they are an older couple, and they knew that they were going to be receiving their IRS stimulus checks.
Mm-hmm.
They contacted me and said, we don't need this money and we want it to go where it will do the most good. And we would hope that we could get other people interested in doing the same thing. So we had a discussion. It was very rushed at one meeting because that hard cutoff at noon for Kodo, and we carried it over to the next meeting. And through all of this, our staff has also been looking at our overall budget. We are a tourism economy, and without tourism, this is going to be a rough year or 2 years, hopefully not longer, for everyone here. Knowing that, staff went through the budget and saw where we had a little bit of flexibility. Because we were all stay at home ordered and now safer at home ordered, we've been sticking in place. People aren't traveling to go to conferences. People aren't traveling to go take classes. We have a travel and training budget that is good, and it's generous, and it's to keep us up to date on different things. That was a place, though, in the travel and training budget that they found they had some flexibility because we knew we wouldn't be using it this year.
And those classes and conferences are probably canceled at this point.
Most of them are canceled, yeah. So we took $25,000 out of that fund, out of that line item in our budget, and created a new line item with that as seed money, and then the donations that I mentioned from this couple, and are looking at other grant opportunities that are specific to housing. When we had the discussion, we weren't sure where we wanted to take it, but ultimately, knowing that housing was the biggest ask in the community, we decided to make it just for housing. And it is open to anyone who lives within the R1 school district, and there are a few other details.
The full school, excuse me.
Yes.
The full school district, so you don't have to be in town of Telluride.
That's correct.
Boundaries, wow.
It goes out to San Bernardo.
That's wonderful.
It's in effect for people who live in Mountain Village down to Placerville.
And is that for both rent and mortgage payments or just rent?
It's housing assistance.
Okay.
So there's flexibility there. And Tri-County Health was very gracious in offering to administer that program for us because they've already had so much experience with those things. But ultimately, the money will come from the town and will go directly to either the landlord or the lender, whatever the case may be. And I have a phone number for that. If anybody is interested, I wrote these down.
For donating or applying for the fund?
The phone number is actually for donating.
Okay.
And that phone number is 728-8436. Obviously, well, for us, 970 area code. You can also mail in donations to P.O. Box 397 in Telluride.
Okay.
And that would go to the town.
Or if you see Delanie on the street, just give her some money. It works that way too.
No. Please don't do that. Rather not do that. But we were just happy to be able to figure out some way to help folks who make this town run.
Yeah, and I said a lot of the workforce lives in town-owned properties, but not everyone, and that's a huge help to folks who are not working for a couple months on an unexpected vacation.
And I want to add one other thing about housing real quick, if I may. I saw a question on Facebook, which I really try not to engage on Facebook because
It's a challenge.
It's one of those places right now where kindness and patience is really, really important. But when I see something that is really seems like a call for help or something that's blatantly wrong, I am sometimes compelled to give the correct information. And one of the things I've seen is people who own homes or who are renting, and not just residential, commercial property as well. I can tell you that the governor has an executive order in place that is a protective measure for people. There should be no evictions happening right now unless it is a matter of health and safety and there's some peculiar thing going on. But for non-payment, that should not be happening. And if you are an owner and you're having issues with your mortgage, lenders are required to be working with the Department of Local Affairs, the Department of Regulations, and there are state organizations who are there to help. So if anybody is having trouble with their mortgage or in a rental situation, make a phone call. Try to work it out if you can on your own with your lender or with your landlord, but don't feel like you're alone out there.
Right. Who would someone call if they were the tenant?
Well, it
Maybe
would.
the housing authority?
They could maybe call the housing authority. Tri-County Health, and I hate to keep sending work their way because I know how hard they are working.
They've got such an awesome team.
But they can at least direct people in a lot of cases who to talk to. There is also, you can go to the state of Colorado or the governor page. Governor Polis has his own page within the state. And there are links for all kinds of resources.
Yeah.
And I know that people are on their computers a lot right now. Or if you're at home and you need to find a phone number, calling a place like Tri-County Health. If you don't have a computer or you don't have good internet or the broadband's really bad where you are, make a phone call and they can give you a phone number.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of Tri-County Health,
Yeah.
they're so great. They
We love you, Tri-County Health.
and everyone I've ever met or worked with through Tri-County Health is just, they're lovely humans and they're doing such amazing work. And it's the month of May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and of course this being stuck at home and having all these uncertainties can certainly exacerbate mental health issues or bring it's hard. We all know it's a very hard situation and it hits some harder than others. The town of Telluride Town Council declared May Mental Health Awareness Month along with the county and Mountain Village. Did you say you had some resources for like a crisis hotline or who folks can call if they're really just in a dark place?
Absolutely. And along with the patience and the kindness, if you know someone who's in a bad position, please give them a call, send them a message, and just pass along this information if you have it, or call yourself if you're really worried about a friend or a family member. And not only did we pass a declaration for Mental Health Awareness Month, but May is also for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And sadly, the calls that the Telluride Marshal's Department has seen probably the largest uptick in are things like this, things doing with domestic situations and mental health situations. So San Miguel Resource Center, another amazing organization, if you or anyone you know is facing some kind of domestic violence or if you are a victim of sexual assault, this is their phone number right now. This number may not be one people had before, but currently right now, this is the number to call. It's 844-816-3915. And if you see something, say something. Another good catchphrase.
Yes.
And to take a little heat off of Tri-County Health, I actually took down the Center for Mental Health numbers. Their support line if you are having any anxiety or feeling depressed or just anything, if you just have some questions, or if you know someone that you think is suffering from any of these things, please call 970-252-6220. And they have actually started a virtual support group for people who are just needing to have like some kind of like Zoom. Who knew? Zoom, you can have friend meetups, but there's also telehealth and all of these other opportunities.
I had a wine Zoom the other night with some girlfriends out of state.
But that right there is good for your mental health.
Just to see another human and connect with them, even if it's not in person, just makes a world of difference.
So the Center for Mental Health has this new virtual group. It meets on Tuesdays from 1 to 2 p.m. And if you'd like more information about trying to get connected with a group, this group or a group like it, you can call 970-252-3200. And of course, there's always Tri-County Health too.
Yes, and I'm just going to put my social media hat on. You can, if you didn't catch those phone numbers, you might be watching this through social media or online, and I would just recommend giving all of those organizations a follow on Facebook and or Instagram, because the Facebook community here, they have great posts. I see stuff for Center for Mental Health quite often, and that's the best way to keep in touch or find their phone number if you didn't catch it now.
And we talked earlier about how this is affecting everyone. Mm-hmm. There is not a single person that this is not affecting in some way, some harder than others. So I guess the other thing to just let people know is don't be embarrassed or think that you shouldn't ask for help, because help is out there for anyone and everyone, and we're all going through something right now. So don't be embarrassed to go to the food bank if you need food. Don't be embarrassed to call the Center for Mental Health if you are just in just a very weird place. Don't be afraid to call San Miguel Resource Center if you have a friend who's in a situation and you're afraid for them or yourself. And if you need help with your rent or your mortgage, don't be afraid to ask for help. This is not a time to worry about pride or worry about what someone might think. Just if you need something, just ask.
Because we're all in this together.
That's right.
I think that we can leave it at that. Unless there's anything else you'd like to say related to COVID land, COVID world.
I always give the phone number and website for the county.
Oh, yes.
Because for anyone watching or listening, the most consolidated information that you can receive if you're a resident here in San Miguel County, or if you're thinking of coming to visit San Miguel County at any time, their website has everything.
And probably the numbers that we've listed as well.
Absolutely. There are links to resources, but the public health orders are there, amendments to those orders, case counts, etc.
And in Spanish and English, which is huge.
But the San Miguel County website, which is in English and Spanish, you can get all the information you're looking for. And that is sanmiguelcountyco.gov/coronavirus. And their hotline, as far as I know, is still open. If you don't have a computer and you only have access by phone, 970-728-3844. That's the hotline. If you have any questions, and they can answer the question or send you to whomever has the answer to the question.
And that hotline has been manned by county and town staff and amazing volunteers. So even if you're frustrated, try to be kind and gracious as well.
And elected officials.
And elected officials, because we're all doing the best we can and trying to help out when we can.
We're all doing the best we can. So one last thing I just want to say, and this sort of circles back to the beginning, the county health orders are there to protect us. And this is an unknown, unprecedented situation. There's been some messaging that has gone out either directly or perhaps through social media indirectly that may not have really stated the intention behind things. And I think that after yesterday's county commissioner meeting, there have been a lot of hurt feelings and there have been a lot of misunderstandings about how this looks. We have our full-time resident community that's always here. We have our workforce that doesn't all live here. They come from outside the town and outside the county even. And we have part-time locals who own property here, who are part of our community too. And there's this sense that we don't want people here because of who they are, and that is the farthest thing from the case. We appreciate and love everyone who appreciates and loves our community, even if you don't own a home here and you're a visitor. We're just trying to do the best we can and keep everyone safe, and we would much rather not be asking people to not come.
Right.
We would much rather not be telling people you have to stay quarantined in your house for 2 weeks. I know, would love things to be the way they usually are, because right about now we'd be gearing up for Mountain Film, which is online, by the way.
Yes.
If you want to get a ticket and watch Mountain
Mountainfilm.org.
Film.
Passes are only $75.
And we love music.
Yes.
And it's hard for all of us to know that we're not having our festivals and our music and the people who come here and the celebrations, because we do love our town. And so anyone who feels like they've been slighted or feels like they have been treated poorly, please know that we really don't want you to feel that way.
And that was never the intention.
Never the intention. And misunderstandings are hard. And so I go back to, if you have a question or you have a comment, email me, email anyone on council, Mountain Village Town Council, county commissioners. We're there to answer questions. We want to do our best for all of you, and we're here to help, and we're here to listen and do our best.
Well, special thanks to the Sheridan Opera House, which is where we met.
It's where we met.
Thank you so much for having us, guys. And we'll be back for another mayoral update when there's more to share. What do you think, Delanie?
I am excited to do it.
Great.
Thank you so much, Catherine.
Yeah.
And thank you, Tim, and Telluride TV.
Telluride TV rocks.
Yeah. And thank you, everybody.